somebody stop me. Stop me, stop me. Please, somebody stop me. Stop me, stop me. Oh, somebody stop me. And Lord, if I'm doing it wrong, then please stop me. Stop me. Stop me. And Lord, if I'm doing it wrong, then please stop me.
Uh-oh, look who's back. It's the Hit Stick Podcast, back with another episode 23. We apologize for the long delay. Life has been crazy right now, moving into the new house, kind of getting everything situated over here. I'm sick as well, so I apologize if my voice goes out at any point here. But we are back, Hit Stick Podcast, XCFL Season 19. It has been almost 2 seasons since we put one of these out, so we are happy to be back in studio. It is me by myself today. Brent has a busy week and is out of town, hence his Saturday game everyone's beating him up about. But I am back. I'm going to do it alone, a one-man show here, kind of go over some main topics throughout the league. Just a quick little episode for you guys today. We'll kind of cover our little opening drive segment, one of our new segments. We'll go over just the division leaders, how the playoff picture's looking heading into Week 11 here. We got a few other things. We'll take a look at the draft class. We'll take a look at some of the the rookie spotlight. We'll take a look at some guys that might be a little under the radar and a few other topics before we get out of here. We'll answer some Twitter questions as well. But with that being said, let's get into the opening drive segment here. And it is going to be all about our friend Sean White and the Cleveland Browns. I love to give Sean shit. I mess him a lot about how many interceptions he throws. He usually takes the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck always leads the league in interceptions. But this cycle, he went a different route, took the Cleveland Browns. A great roster right out of the box. Young, talent everywhere. You have Myles Garrett leading the way. Obviously, everyone knows how good of a pass rusher he is. Baker Mayfield, 95 throw power out of the box. But this year is Sean. Looks like it's shaping up to be Sean's year where he might have a shot at the playoffs. So we're going to simply ask the question, will the Browns make the playoffs this season? You can see the schedule up here. We got Week 11 through Week 17. He's currently sitting at 5-4. He played the Broncos early this morning and won, moving to 6-4. We had the Broncos as a win for him. But, it's a tough schedule. You see on there, he's got the Ravens, he's got the Steelers, he's got the Packers and the Bears, who are all, playoff teams year in and year out. The Bengals are struggling, Denver's struggling, and the Colts are having a pretty down year as well. So there are some winnable games on the schedule, but the question is going to be, how many games is he going to have to win of these final 7 games to get in, find his spot in the wild card round? Because I don't think he's going to catch the Ravens or the Steelers, whoever ends up winning the division there. If we go over and slide over to our next slide here, we got the good, the bad, and the ugly for the Cleveland Browns. The good, there's a lot of good. We got 7 guys catching touchdown passes. So Mayfield's only thrown, 11 touchdown passes, but he's hitting multiple receivers. Tight ends are getting involved. Fullbacks, halfbacks, everybody's getting involved catching touchdowns. So that's good. You never know who's going to be the one hurting you through the air. Michael Kendricks is playing at an all-pro level. He is absolutely playing dominant football for the Browns. 44 tackles after their Week 11 game. 44 total tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 5 interceptions, all from that middle linebacker spot. And it's his 9th year in the league. He's 31 years old. I remember talking to Sean this offseason saying he's been saying he's got to find that replacement for him, that middle linebacker who can step up and kind of, let Kendricks kind of fade to the background. But Kendricks has proven he is still well worth the money the Browns are paying him. And as well as Kendricks playing at all-pro level, it goes without saying, a guy like Myles Garrett, who's got 40 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and almost 15 sacks, playing pretty good football himself. So with those two firing on all cylinders, this Browns defense is actually one of the scariest defenses in the league. And it's kind of what Sean's been known for. He's always kind of drafted really well on the defense side of the football, and he's been able to put out good defensive product. It always just comes down to limiting the turnovers, which we will get to later. And then you can see second in the XCFL in interceptions forced. So he's got a bunch of guys picking off passes. Whether it's Denzel Ward hasn't been huge in the interception numbers, but he's got safeties. Derek Kindred, and then what's his name? Sherrod Harrison, who the big safety out of Notre Dame, who's got 5 interceptions this year, as well as Jabril Peppers, who kind of plays that hybrid safety cornerback role with 4 interceptions as well. So the Browns defense is not one to laugh at, and they are the reason they stick in a lot of football games. It really, if they can run the football and play defense, the Browns have a good shot to make some noise this year. I'll move on to the bad here. So the bad, Baker Mayfield, 11 touchdowns to 20 interceptions. It's not good. It's not ideal. I know after their game today, he actually threw two more touchdowns and 4 more interceptions. So we're sitting at 13 touchdowns and 24 interceptions now. Only completing 58% of his passes. It's not ideal for your quarterback to have this bad of a ratio, and it is a reason why the Browns sometimes suffer when they play the big-time opponents. And then the other points here, we're lacking a true number 1 wide receiver. Yes, Jarvis Landry is awesome. He is a great possession receiver, great hands. I think he's got 31 catches this year, almost 500 yards. But it is Courtland Sutton, who they traded Nick Chubb for in the offseason, who's kind of emerging as their number 1, which I don't consider him a number 1. They kind of have 2 number 2s in my opinion. But he's got 33 catches, 580 yards, and 2 touchdowns so far through Week 11. So, if Sutton can keep this going and him and Baker kind of find a little groove together, it could be good for the Browns. But they got to do something at the receiver spot to, find an elite talent, whether it's through the draft or free agency this offseason. And then last point under bad here is going to be Jay Ajayi's health. Ajayi's only played in 6 games this year, and he's banged up last year. When he plays, he's good. But it's just that's the issue. He's not on the field, and when you're not on the field, it can't help you. And what does IREC rookies always say? Your best ability is availability. And Ajayi's availability has been close to nothing. And this season, last season, this cycle really. And then the ugly. So this is where it really, really explains the Browns season in a nutshell, though. 4 of their 5 wins, not counting their win this week. Well, I guess you can count it this week. So 5 of their 6 wins came against teams with 2 or fewer wins. It's good to beat up on the teams that you're better than, but the way to make the playoffs is beating those teams that are ahead of you, because if you're not going to beat the big dogs in front of you, you can't count on other teams to do it. Their 1 win against a good team, it came against the Raiders Week 10, which was a huge win for the Browns. One that most people probably thought he wouldn't come up with. Doss is a great user. But the Browns come away with a big win there, and that, kind of helping get themselves propelled toward a playoff run here. And then lastly, they cannot beat the Steelers or the Ravens. If you can't beat the top 2 teams in your division, you're going to struggle. And once again, no one else seems to be beating the Ravens and the Steelers either, so that's just not a good recipe. You're kind of at this point looking to be that 3rd wild card team from your own division in there, and if you're going 0-4 against the top 2, it's going to be tough to, you pretty much have to be perfect from there on out, which the Browns have not been so far. So if we bring the schedule back up here, our prediction for the Browns is going to be that they finish 9-7. We think they're going to beat the Broncos, which they did today. They're going to beat the Bengals. They're going to beat the Colts. And then we think they're going to come away and steal one against the Steelers, the Packers, or the Bears. I'm going to say they steal one against the Steelers just because they know how big of a game that'll be inside the division. I think the Packers and Bears are a little too tough. And then I think the Ravens kind of have the Browns' number. I think they average 5 interceptions every time they play that Ravens defense. It's just not a pretty sight. Will 9-7 be good enough to get in the playoffs is the real question. That wild card spot. I'm going to say no. I'm going to think it's going to take, 10, 11 wins to get in to catch the Titans or the Steelers. So while the Browns do pull off a winning season, I think they finish, with a little sour taste in their mouth, but hopefully come back next year and they kind of right the ship a little bit and just keep building off the success they found this season and keep it going. Prove me wrong, Sean. Make it in. All right, let's go ahead and transition on over here to our next topic. We got just our playoff picture. We'll start with the NFC here. You can see our division leaders on the left. We won't spend too much time on this because it is kind of self-explanatory, but division leaders, you got the Packers, the Falcons, both sitting at 8-1. Right now would be the 1 and 2 seeds in the NFC. The Redskins and the Seahawks sit in the 3 and 4 seeds as division leaders of the NFC East and the NFC West. The wild card spots belong to both of actually the 1 and 2 seed of last season in the Bears and the Saints. Saints started slow, so did the Bears, but they're both kind of figuring it out and getting everything going, and probably going to string together a few wins. And wouldn't be surprised if they, compete for the division lead here in a few with the Packers and the Falcons. In the hunt for the NFC, there's obviously a ton of teams that still have a shot to make it, but these are just the teams that are closest right now. You got the Cardinals and the Rams sitting there from the NFC West, the Cowboys sitting there at 5 and 4 from the NFC East, and then the Carolina Panthers 4 and 5. But the Panthers have shown some bright spots. Parker Easy, the quarterback, starting to find his groove a little bit. If they can limit turnovers and fumbling the football, they might have a shot to kind of make some noise here. But as we've seen in the NFC, it's going to take 10, maybe 11 wins to get that last wild card spot. It's not easy by any means. And I expect it to come down, all the way to the last week of the season here, especially with the NFC North playing the NFC West this season. I think a lot of those games are going to be big games, especially for the Bears, Cardinals, and Rams, as you can see, who are going to be fighting for that wild card spot. We'll go ahead and shift our focus here over to the AFC, which the AFC is looking strong this year. I don't have the numbers about how they've played against NFC teams, but the Chargers and Bills are both kind of stringing together a bunch of wins, both sitting at 8 and 1 as well. And you can see the Ravens 7 and 2 with Lamar Jackson playing at a very high level. The Jags leading the always tough AFC South with the Titans right on their tails tied with them, and then you can never count out Coach Boone at 4 and 5 over there in the hunt. The Ravens and Steelers are both tied at 7 and 2, but the Ravens on the tiebreaker there, so the Steelers end up in the wild card spot as of now. But the Steelers kind of have a nice little 2-game lead on a lot of these teams that are in the hunt. If Jim can keep that ship rolling in the right direction, then we might see the Steelers be a really tough out in the playoffs, and that would be cool to see because I think Jim missed the playoffs last season. So we'll see. In the hunt, you got the Chiefs, the Browns, the Texans, the Raiders. We've talked about the Browns already. The Raiders are always dangerous. I mean, honestly, in the AFC, you got the Texans and the Raiders both at 4 and 5. And it's two of the best users in the AFC, in Dawson and Boone. So, sitting at 4 and 5, these are both teams that can rally off, 6. They could win out. They could win their next and finish 10 and 5 and have a legit shot at the playoffs. But it's going to come down to if Jim and Coach Brian in Tennessee can kind of hold those playoff spots, then it's theirs to lose right now. They both have been playing at high levels, so Le'Veon Bell is probably, MVP candidate right now if it's not for Takk McKinley's massive sack numbers. What Bell is doing is special, so we'll see. I think the Titans go as far as he goes because Mariota has not been good. So that'll kind of wrap up our playoff picture there. Obviously, a ton can change, but we'll see what's going to happen here. But just giving a little heads up, showing everybody what it's looking like as of now in Week 11. These are before the Week 11 games are played, so after Week 10. But our next topic, we're going to kind of break down our hit stick big board. I know a couple guys have put mock drafts out there of who they think the best prospects are. Obviously, mine is going to be filled with offensive linemen because offensive lineman matters in this Madden. No, not one bit. Not a single offensive lineman will be in my top 10. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Number 1 is Deontay Capers out of Notre Dame. The story of this cycle has been the fast wide receiver. You need to go get one. They are defensive backs' worst nightmares. At 6'1", 180 pounds. If he puts together the combine we think he's going to put together, Capers is going to be a monster. The son of a former All-American track star or whatever it was. So he's going to have that superstar dev. And 6'1", so this isn't one of those 5'8", 97 speed receivers. This is going to be a legit deep threat. His second best skill that we've seen from the scouting reports is that catching traffic. B- catching traffic, B- deep route. This guy is legit, very polished receiver playing under Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. And I think no matter what, unless a team, desperately needs something else, I think Capers is going to be your number 1 pick. And then coincidentally, the number 2 pick, I have wide receiver Jalen Holmes out of Ole Miss, who also stands 6'1", 178, so a couple pounds lighter than Capers. But I mean, he's another deep threat receiver. He has elite speed. As long as he doesn't screw up at the combine, this guy is a guaranteed surefire top 5 pick. It's a copycat league, and when you see guys like Brooks, Rawls, Shark, and other guys doing what they're doing, you got to go out and get one for yourself. So, Capers, I got Capers and Holmes going 1 and 2, and then I can get to my first cornerback, and it's going to be Trayshawn Wimbley. Wimbley is kind of down on the Madden boards. They have him listed as the 4th best corner. I think he's number 1. Yes, he's 24 years old, which normally would be a big knock on my book, but sitting at 6'1", 213, we only have 4 to 5 seasons left, 3 to 4 or 5 seasons left this cycle, so drafting a 24-year-old is not the end of the world. He is elite in man and zone coverage. Like I said, he has the size. 6'1", 213. This guy could play safety if you wanted. Once again, what's really going to separate all these corners that you can see there are a ton on my board, it's going to be their 40-yard dash times, who shows up at the combine, who doesn't. But right now I got Trayshawn Wimbley out of Texas as our number 3 prospect. Sitting at number 4, I have Dyron Wire, the middle linebacker out of LSU. Wire is a beast. Excellent in pass coverage, 6'2", 250, 21 years old. Tackling machine. LSU, they've put out some great linebackers into the pros. And, I mean, anytime you're a linebacker in the SEC going against these SEC running backs and offensive lines, and, I mean, he's a monster. He's just as good in pass coverage as he is at coming up in the run game and filling the holes. So I think Wire easily could make a case to be any of the top 3 picks, just in my opinion. I think the other 3 positions are a little more important, so that's why he falls in at 4. Similar to Ja'Cory Medlin, who the Packers drafted last year at number 5 in the draft, I believe it was, 4 in the draft, maybe 5. So I think it's a guy that, when the middle of the field is so tough without our ability to use your cover, I think this is where Wire could step in, and if he shows any signs of 85-ish speed, some type of speed like that, he's a surefire top 5 pick, and I think we'll see him go quickly. Number 5, rounding out the top 5 on my board, another cornerback from USC. It's Willie Holloway. Holloway's another lanky guy, 6 foot tall, 212, 21 years old. I mean, him and Wimbley are both the same, where they both excel in both man and zone coverage. He can come up and press man. Only 21 years old, so he's coming out early into the draft. Playing against those explosive offenses in the Pac-12, I think Holloway could be a great fit. Wimbley and Holloway both kind of match up pretty evenly, so you can't go wrong with any of these corners. And then, I mean, with the next 2 we get to as well. 2 other guys that are pretty similar, Ishmael Bentley and then Spencer Fairley out of Alabama and out of Florida State. Fairley, a little bit, Bentley's the taller one, coming out of Alabama, 6'2", 193, where Fairley's 6'1", 185. So the long, lengthy corner is kind of where we're looking this cycle. It kind of makes up for, if you don't have the speed, they can kind of make up for, swat a couple passes. This is my big board, my personal opinion, who these best players are, and this is kind of where we're sitting. And then this is very unlike me, but sitting at number 8, I think this kid is an exceptional talent. Dex Windsor out of Georgia. If he puts together a nice 40-yard dash at the combine and some decent, we'll kind of find out if he's like an Evan Ingram type with speed, no blocking, if he's an all-around player with a little bit of blocking ability. But 6'5", 263, 21 years old. He can run every route in the book. He can be your quarterback's best friend. What do they say? A young quarterback's best friend is his tight end because it's a safety blanket. So it could be a good addition to any offense. Will he go number 8? I don't think so. But I think from a talent aspect, I think he definitely deserves to be up there. Out of Georgia, playing in their very, very tough offense. He's getting the pro system. I think he's a good guy that can make a big difference for a lot of offenses, especially playing over the middle of the field. Then we're going to move on to our first defensive lineman on the top 10 here, and it's going to be Trace Bromell out of Nebraska. So he's very undersized. He kind of fits the build of more of a 3-4 outside linebacker pass rusher, but he did a little bit of both at Nebraska. 6 feet tall, 258 pounds, so he's a little short, stocky dude, but he can lay the boom. Huge hits all season long at Nebraska in the Big Ten. And I mean, just great at getting to the passer. I think he had 26 sacks this season, so it's definitely a guy to keep your eye on if you're looking pass rusher. Another guy that's 24 years old, but not going to hurt him because this is a later class. And then the last one is going to be one more cornerback, and it's going to be Howard Kennedy out of Wisconsin. Kennedy, probably the shortest corner on my board, 5'10", 180 pounds. Excels definitely a little bit more in man coverage than zone coverage. But I think, him and Anthony Byram, the number one corner by Madden's rankings, were kind of fighting for this last spot. But I went with Kennedy, a little more proven. Like I said, excels more one covers than the other, but you never know. All these corners, who knows? It all comes down to the 40-yard dash. But that's going to round out our top 10. If you agree, disagree, think guys are going to be total busts. A lot can't be decided until we see their performance at the combine. But as of now, these are my top 10 guys. This can change week to week. We'll see next time we put an episode out. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But we're going to slide over to our new little segment here. It's called the Rookie Spotlight. And we're just going to pick a rookie on both sides of the football, offense and defense, and just kind of break them down, see how their season's going so far, and kind of go from there. So our first rookie is the number 8th pick in the draft this season. It was the quarterback that the Jacksonville Jaguars took, Gordon Fedekil, whatever his name is. He is having a great year. He's got talented wide receivers around him. Has the Jags sitting in first place in that AFC South, which is tough every single season. But he 2,495 yards, 25 touchdowns, completing 66% of his passes, then 118.7 QBR. It's incredible for a rookie quarterback. He's a little undersized, 6'2", 215, came from Texas, down in the Big 12, was just a total gunslinger down there. But a lot of the focus this season was all on Stormin Norman, who the Vikings took at number 1, Norm Buehler. And not much was said about the rest of the quarterback class. But Gordon Fed, we'll call him Fed here, has proven to be possibly the best quarterback drafted this season. He does have the advantage of having Leonard Fournette in the backfield, and then he has DJ Shark, and then their other rookie receiver, Kenyon Gordon, out wide. So it does help him big time there. But he still has to make the throws. He obviously is a rookie, so those interception numbers are a little higher than you want them to be. But when you're throwing 25 touchdowns, it's okay if you have the 13 INTs, just because you're putting together a pretty decent season. The key is going to be how he plays against the top level talent in the playoffs. Is he going to go back to his rookie ways? We'll see. They have talent all around him. This could be a year the Jacksonville Jaguars make a run, and it really will depend on the right arm of this young man. As far as the defensive side of the football, we are going to go with none other than Akeem Spriggs, the cornerback in New England. Spriggs is a monster. I think he's second on the team in tackles with 38 total tackles. He was the number 2 pick in the draft behind Stormin Norman in Minnesota. But Spriggs, they played a game this morning, and he had another interception to the list, so he's got 7 interceptions already, 3 tackles for loss, a sack. He's swatted 8 passes, and he has two touchdowns, 111 interception yards. So he's not only making plays, but he likes the return game as well. 6'1", 180 pounds. And this guy ran like 4.26 at the combine. That's elite speed. And we've seen him go out and shut down. He's played with he's played Isaac Ross. He's played Mike Thomas. He just played DeAndre Hopkins, and Hopkins still got a touchdown. But Spriggs held his own as a rookie to go up against these elite level talents. What he's done in New England is pretty awesome. Now it's just up to New England to kind of put some points on the board and help this rookie out. Maybe they got to start playing him on offense as well. But to come in as a rookie, be second on the team in tackles, first on tied in first in interceptions the entire league. Spriggs has definitely been, arguably should have been the first overall pick if the Vikings didn't need a quarterback, but I think this is a once-in-a-generation type talent, the size, the speed, the length. Definitely a guy to watch for the next couple seasons here, especially as he matches up against some of these elite wide receivers that the XCFL has. That'll end our rookie spotlight. We're going to move on to one of my favorite topics. It's going to be our Hit Stick Twitter questions. So we took 3 or 4 questions here from our audience on Twitter, and we're going to kind of just I'll give my opinion, what I think about their questions, but here we go. Let's get into it. We got Stu Roberts at Hawks Nation 12s. Hey guys, Hit Stick Podcast, longtime listener. Who's the one team no one is talking about this year that you think makes the playoffs next season and makes some noise? Ooh, that is a great question. if we're talking, I think a team that has the ability to make the playoffs will be. I mean, they've made the playoffs before. I think it's the Rams. With the way Todd Gurley's playing and the way that Rams defense is playing, led by Luke Kuechly, I think that's a team who no one's really talking about because that division is so tough. But I think if they can kind of put it together, that'll be a team that could not only make the playoffs, but definitely make some noise and maybe knock off a couple of teams. We're looking for a deep sleeper. Oof. I'd probably say can't pick the Giants. The Broncos. I think the Broncos in the AFC West, they've shown flashes of being great. They have a lot of talent around them. If they can keep Tannehill healthy at the quarterback position, I know he's not the answer, but he definitely the team plays best when Tannehill's at the helm instead of DeSuco or whatever his name is. I think the Broncos have a chance in that division if they can capitalize on winning some of the inner division games. If they can beat the Raiders, they can beat the Chargers. That's a team that could go worst to first, I think. They need to have a good offseason. They did trade away Von Miller. I know they're sitting with multiple first-round picks, multiple picks of this draft, a ton of them. But I think that would be my deep sleeper, the Broncos. And then there are teams like the Eagles, and I'd hate to say it, but the Giants with that offense, if they can play any bit of defense, they have a shot. And yeah, that'd be it. There's a bunch of teams. That's the cool thing about the XFL. Teams can turn around quick, and you never know who's going to end up winning the division. Carolina's got a shot too. That they just are in such a tough division that it makes it almost near impossible. But I like what Carolina's doing there as well. And then the Cowboys, who knows? The Cowboys, that division is more than winnable. He just has to beat the Redskins. If you can beat the Redskins, you got a shot to win that division. And he's still in the hunt this year, so who knows? But no one's talking about the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott, they still are loaded at the offensive line. We'll see how it goes for the Dallas Cowboys. But let's move on to our next question, and it is from Ricky Streaks at Da Bears. What's up, Hitstick Podcast? Big Bears fan. Can we compete for a championship with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback? Yikes. So the Bears have had, Tosh has done awesome with the Bears. They have talent all over the field. The defense is loaded. Roquan Smith leads the way there. He's done a great job coming in mid-cycle and kind of revamping this team. They're sitting at 6-3, they're 2 games back from the Packers for the NFC North in that second wildcard spot right now. First wildcard spot right now. The Bears have been the number 1 seed in seasons past with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, and we kind of know the struggles there. Is Tyrod good enough? I think he is because the Bears can play defense and run the football. When you have that duo of Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen, your quarterback doesn't have to be great. He just has to, be that game manager. I know that word gets thrown around, but it's exactly what he has to do. Don't turn the ball over, and that's what Tyrod's done this year. 14 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, completing 70% of his passes, while only throwing for 187 yards a game. But, the Bears, Taylor's got 4 rushing touchdowns this year, and then you've got Howard with 6, Cohen with 2. It's just almost a 3-headed monster rushing attack. I know they've kind of mastered their little read option. I've played them twice, and the Bears are not a easy team to beat. And if they can, if you can get up on the Bears and make Tyrod Taylor beat you with his arm, I think you give yourself a really good shot. But if the Bears get up on you and can just unleash this ground attack, with the zoom and boom combo they have in Cohen and Howard, they are tough to beat. So I don't really think it doesn't really matter who they have at quarterback. But yes, I think you can win a championship with Tyrod Taylor as your quarterback. We'll move on to our last question here from Marco Lopez. Guys, at Hitstick Podcast, what happened to Nyheim Hines? Where did he go? R.I.P. Nyheim. This has been an interesting story because he jumped on the Madden scene and was, firing out the gate. I thought this guy was going to be player of the cycle, busting out huge 200-yard game after 200-yard game. I know he was kind of beat up by injuries early on in 2018, 2019, the start of this Madden cycle. But he still put together, 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and then 850 yards and 8 touchdowns in his first 2 years. Like I said, being banged up, missing games every season. But, and then even, bounced back in 2020 and was on pace for another huge season. We could have seen maybe a 2,000-yard season, but once again, injuries cut that short. And then this year, he is nowhere to be found. I think a lot of it has to do with Andrew Luck being hurt. They've kind of had to turn to Jacoby Brissett, and it has not been pretty. When there's no threat of a passing attack, you guys know that you can just stack the box, and Hines is not going to make much noise back there. He is averaging 4 yards a carry this year, but only 43 yards a game, which is way down from his totals in the first 3 seasons. But I think he is the key for the Colts kind of getting their stuff back together. That's a tough division, that AFC South, and the Colts are going to kind of go as Hines goes. We'll see if he can turn it around. I think if they can get back to their philosophy they had at the start of the year, then Hines can make his case for maybe a possible Player of the Year candidate. But as of now, we have no clue where he went, and I think it has to do with the Andrew Luck injury. But we will move on here to our last segment of the show, and it is the Under the Radar segment. We kind of pick out a player or two who you might not be talking about around the league or might not know about, who is just putting up monster stats. And this week, we're bringing up the rookie quarterback out of University of Texas, San Antonio. Plays for the Houston Texans. His name is Zeke Harper, 6'4", 213 pounds. Harper, only 22 years old, kind of has jumped on the scene. Deshaun Watson went down with a broken collarbone, and the 5th-round pick in this last draft has kind of just emerged as this legit quarterback. He's thrown for 1,751 yards, completing 74% of his passes, 19 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. That's an incredible ratio. 140.9 QBR, and he just played a game this morning against the Patriots, and I think he had a massive game, throwing five more touchdowns, bringing his total, or he threw 4 touchdowns, bringing his total up to 23 touchdowns. He did throw a couple interceptions, but a 23 touchdown to 5 interception ratio while completing 74% of your passes as a rookie, especially coming in for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. I'm going to bring up this next slide, but the guy stinks. Look at his ratings: 86 throw power, 70 deep accuracy, 82 mid accuracy, 85 short. He's not good by any means. And Coach Boone has had a history of doing this in the past with guys like David Fales and some other guys, no-name guys, and just turning them into these studs. Not sure why he paid Deshaun Watson if he plans on doing this, because now if you're looking to trade Watson, you're looking at a $40+ million cap hit, which will not fly. So, I don't know. Zeke Harper, is he the long-term answer? I don't know. If he could play like this, he 100% is, because if he would have been playing all season long, then we're looking at a possible most outstanding player candidate, MVP candidate. Who knows? But it's amazing what this guy's been doing. It's just a shame that the defense can't stop other teams and help them win some games, because they're sitting at 5-5. But who knows? If the defense turns around and Harper keeps playing at this all-pro level, I think we're going to see the Texans make some noise. But that's our Under the Radar segment today. It's going to be our quarterback out of Texas, from the Texans, Zeke Harper. But thank you guys for tuning in. That's going to wrap up our episode. Like I said, just a quick little episode today. Looking to kind of get back on doing these a little more consistently. Life is busy, but I think we got time for these as long as Brett and I schedule match up. I'm going to be hitting guys up for coach interviews. Maybe some segments where you come on if you're a newer owner and we get to know you a little bit. Especially as we get down to draft time. You know how much I like to draft in the offseason. I would love to have teams come on and kind of break down their plans if they want to for the offseason, what they're looking to do in the draft. Going to look to get our fantasy football expert, Barry Jefferson, on, as well as D'Angelo Vickers, our draft expert, and we'll talk a little season 20 draft, and then who are, maybe some fantasy football lineups, and see who the best players are this season fantasy-wise. But, thank you guys for tuning in. Hope it was a good listen. Be on the lookout for another Hit-Stick episode, and let's go ahead and finish this season strong. A couple housework things here just real quick while I got you guys. Please make sure you're mixing up plays on offense. We want to see multiple plays run, not the same play in every situation. We don't want to see the same hot routes taking place every single play as well. Hot routing slants and drags are not a realistic thing to do. It's kind of just a bailout where if your main route is covered, you have this easy little check down slant drag. we want to see plays run as they're supposed to. There's a couple plays, a game where you might be able to take advantage of something and go ahead. If you see somebody comes up and presses you, obviously you might take a streak over top. Those are realistic situations. But mixing up plays is huge, using the whole playbook. And then one thing we do want to kind of limit is, I've been guilty of it at times myself, but we want to avoid these crazy long dropbacks. And then scrambling outside the pocket. So we want to, realistic stepping up in the pocket. I know with our pass rush, it can be hard sometimes. We got to learn to throw the ball away. Throw the ball away, learn to take sacks. So maybe we can keep the interceptions numbers down. But the big thing we want to focus on, we want, everything's been great so far. We've got very few complaints this season, this whole cycle really, which has been great. But, never be afraid to come to us with complaints or with questions. If you see somebody doing something, you're like, oh, am I allowed to do that? Is that, then come to us. We'll talk about it. We'll address it. We'll see how it goes. But as far, gameplay's been pretty clean. I think a lot of us are mature enough to know what to do, what not to do, what's right, what's wrong, that kind of thing. And the pace has been great. I mean, we're looking to get in 8 seasons this cycle, and that would be great. I think we only got in 6 last season, so if we could get in 8, that would be incredible. We get deep into this franchise, and it would be pretty cool to see, how these rookies really develop when they get 7, 6, 5, 4 seasons in. But thanks, guys, for all your help. I really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, and let's keep it rolling. All right, have a good day, and I will talk to you soon.